Hello, and welcome back to yet another college football video. It's been a while, bro. Um, this is the first video I recorded in it hasn't been a month, but it's been well over 3 weeks. I was on vacation, had a nice little trip. Uh, changed the setup a little bit. I got my hats hanged up and shit. I got like 30 now or 29, whatever it is. But yeah, man, welcome back. We're back. The grind is resumed. And college football. First college football video in a long ass time. I'm going to do the first part really in a four-part series where I try and predict every single game played inside a Power Four conference, which will be it's a lot of games. I mean, I got fucking 9 pages here of games. I'm gonna give you the score, game by game, the team's accumulated records, and I also, on top of that, added where I think they will be ranked in these hypothetical situations. At least for me, I don't care about the fucking AP rankings. I have the Rod rankings, of course. So, yeah, man, let's get right into it. I'm excited. I'm really excited. Only difficulty here is that I gotta do the shit on I gotta do it on ESPN, so it can be visual for you. So, yeah, man, let's get right into it. This text is hella small though. All right, without further ado, thank you for watching. Let's get into it. So week one starts off fucking Arkansas, Pine Bluff versus Arkansas. And I'll probably do a little introduction for every team here in week one. Arkansas, I think, is a bottom tier SEC team. I think they're very bad. Lost KJ Jefferson, lost Rocket Sanders, Michael Pittman, or is it Sam Pittman? I think is the head coach. I think he's on the hot seat. I think this will be his last season. And I don't think Arkansas will do very well, but I think they will start the season off with a win, obviously. I'll call it 31-10 for Arkansas at home here. Next up, we got Murray State traveling to Missouri. Missouri, if you did not know, I have a top four when it comes to the SEC. Missouri is absolutely in that top four. I think they are one of the best teams in the country. I actually have them as my number 16 to start them. I'm stuttering here. I'm nervous with excitement. I have them as my number 16 to start the season. I think they're going to start the season off with a win 38-6 over Murray State. Next up, we have Temple traveling to Oklahoma. Temple actually, I think, has a pretty good pass offense with is it EJ Warner? Is it Kurt Warner's son? I think that's right. Traveling to Oklahoma, obviously Oklahoma, new addition to the SEC. I have them as my number 20 team in the country right now. It's so unfortunate for Oklahoma because, as you will see, they have one of the most difficult schedules in the country. So even though I think they're a talented team with some good players, they are going to struggle a lot in year one. But I have them winning their first game 45-13 over Temple. Next up, we got probably the biggest, now definitely the biggest week one matchup for an SEC opponent. It's a neutral site game, I think, but it's in Atlanta. It's basically a home game for Georgia. Clemson traveling to Atlanta to play Georgia. Both these teams are my top 25. I got Clemson at 22, Georgia at number 2. I have Georgia picking up the win here in week one. 31-13, we'll call it here. I think it will be a pretty clear and dominating performance by Georgia against Clemson. Next up, we have this is an interesting one. We have Virginia Tech traveling to Vanderbilt. The last couple years, Vanderbilt's kind of been, you know, picking up some pretty easy wins, at least early in the season against out of conference opponents. Not the case here. Virginia Tech is a very, I'm not going to say a formidable opponent, but they're not a bottom tier Power Four conference opponent. Like this is a solid team from the ACC, and I actually think Virginia Tech is going to. I don't even know if I'd call it an upset, but I think they're going to beat Vanderbilt in Tennessee. I have Virginia Tech winning 24-17, and Vanderbilt, unfortunately, starting their season off 0-1. Vanderbilt sucks, by the way. Next up, we have Chattanooga traveling to Tennessee. I think Tennessee is very, very good. Damn, I don't have their opening rankings here, unfortunately. I have 10. Oh, no. Yeah, I do. So Tennessee starts off at number 14 for me. I have them picking up a win here, obviously. 35-6, I'll call it. I don't know if I said I have Virginia Tech beating Vanderbilt 24-17. Tennessee 35-6 over Chattanooga. Start their season off 1-0. This is a very, very interesting game right here. Miami at Florida in the swamp in Gainesville. You know, a lot has been said about both these teams, really. I think Miami is a top 10 team in the country. I think they're going to put together a magical season. I have them at number 8 for me. Florida, though, a lot of people think that this is Billy Napier's last year. I have to agree. Some people even think he could be fired mid-season. I could absolutely see that as a possibility. And it sucks because I see Florida this year as Nebraska from a couple years ago, where I think their record's going to be horrible, but I think they're going to have so many close losses. I think this could be one of them. I think week one in the swamp, this is going to be one of the best versions of Florida we see all season. I have Miami picking this game up 27-20 in Gainesville. Next, we have Colorado State traveling to Texas. Colorado State, pretty solid offense, but Texas, obviously. I think Texas certainly is a little bit overrated. I do not think they are a top three team. I have them at number five for me, but I think they should easily pick this game up and be one of the best teams in the SEC. They are in my top four that I mentioned earlier, along with Georgia, Missouri, and Ole Miss. I have Texas winning this game 38-14. Next up, we got Old Dominion traveling to South Carolina, I believe. Yep, traveling to South Carolina. South Carolina, they're in that bottom tier with teams like Vanderbilt and Arkansas. I think this probably is going to be the last year for their head coach. Was it Beamer? But I have them picking up the win here, 24-10 over Old Dominion. Next, we have Eastern Kentucky traveling to Mississippi State. Mississippi State, first year head coach, a lot of change going on with that program since the unfortunate, untimely passing of Mike Leach, rest in peace. But I think they'll start their season off with a win here, 28-7 over Eastern Kentucky. Their new head coach is the former Oklahoma offensive coordinator. So you could see some explosive offensive performances from Mississippi State next season. Next up, we have Western Kentucky, the better of the Eastern and Western Kentuckys, traveling to Alabama. Alabama, by a country mile, is being overrated. There are some people that think Alabama is a top five team in the country. Those people are what I like to call delusional. There is absolutely no way on God's green earth that this Alabama team, without Nick Saban, is making any noise in the SEC. We're gonna get into it, but this is the worst Alabama receiver core that I think I've ever seen. I would certainly it is the worst. It's been on a downward spiral the last several years, and this is the bottom. This is as low as it gets. Their running back room is completely unproven. Some people think they have a good running back room. It's completely unproven, full of guys that you've never heard of. Um, Offensive line was a massive disappointment last season, and it came back to bite them in the college football playoff. And their defense, I think, is going to be the worst that we've seen in over a decade, possibly. Certainly the worst, or worse than any defense under the Nick Saban era. So I think Alabama is on a collision course for their worst season in a long, long time. With that being said, they will certainly pick up a win over Western Kentucky. I have them winning 38-6, and they are my number 10 team in the country to start off, just because Jalen Milroe and Kalen DeVore. I love that tandem. Next up, Furman. I'm going to say next up about 200 times in this video, so just be prepared. Next up, we have Furman. Let me make sure you can see it here at the bottom here. Furman traveling to Ole Miss. Ole Miss is in that top four that I mentioned earlier. They're my number 4 team in the entire country to start the season. I have them beating Furman 41-7. I think Ole Miss will do some big things next season. After that, we have Alabama A&M traveling to Auburn. Auburn is a weird team for me. A lot of people, I'm not gonna say a lot of people, a lot of Auburn fans kind of are getting some like sneaky SEC contender vibes from Auburn. I'm not getting that whatsoever. I think Peyton Thorne is terrible. To be honest with you, his only successful season was when he had Kenneth Walker, Jaden Reed, Keon Coleman. Like he literally had 3 first or second round NFL level players around him, and he was above average. That was his absolute peak. Now take that away, and he was terrible last season. I think he will not be good at all next season. And as a result, I don't think Auburn will be very good next season either. So I have them picking up the week 1 win though, 27-9 over Alabama A&M. This probably, I know I said Georgia Clemson, but I actually will have my eye on this game more than that, because this is more of a question mark for me. Notre Dame, my number 7 team in the country, traveling to Texas A&M week 1. Texas A&M, by the way, my number 28 team in the country. I think they're slightly overrated. I do have Notre Dame picking this game up. I think Texas A&M is going to have a very surprise season, and pay attention to what they do after this game. But I do have them losing week 1. Notre Dame is simply the much better team on paper. I have them losing, or Notre Dame winning rather, 27-17. After that, Southern Miss travels to Kentucky. Kentucky, the much better team. I think Kentucky will have a down year compared to the last few years, but it's to be expected. They're basically renting a new quarterback every season, and I think this upcoming one, Brock Vandergriff, I think is his name, will be the worst out of the whole Devin Leary, Will Levis, that trio, if you will. So I have them beating Southern Miss 34-6, but I don't think they're going to have a very good season overall. Next up, USC LSU. Man, would this have been a great game last year with, head to head, Heisman level quarterbacks, but both teams replacing those guys. USC, by the way, possibly the most overrated team in the entire country. They're not even in my top 30, but let some people tell it they're in their top 15. I don't see that's for the Big Ten schedule. I will go into a USC rant later. LSU, however, is my number 13 team in the country to start the season. And I think is that true? Maybe I don't know. They're my number 13 team to start the season, and I think they will beat USC 31-20. So that's week one. That's everything done right there. Pawn Star pleads guilty. Goodbye, Pawn Star. Is that for you? This is a completely off top. Damn. I fuck with Pawn Stars. I hope it's a clickbait. Rest in peace if it's not clickbait. Moving on. There's going to be a lot of yapping. A lot of yapping in this video. And unfortunately, I got to do this every single time we switch weeks. This will get a little annoying. This is probably going to be an hour long, to be honest with you. All right. Week 2. Is it better than week 1? Actually, probably not, to be honest. There are a couple pretty good week 1 games. Starting off week 2 in the SEC, you have Arkansas, very interesting here, traveling to Stillwater to play Oklahoma State, who was number 19 for me, at least after week 1, I think they will be. So I think this is where Arkansas picks up their first loss of the season, traveling to play a very good Big 12 team. I have Oklahoma State winning this game 24-20. Next up, one of the biggest games of the season. This is one of the most impactful, most important games of the season. Whoever wins this game is probably going to, be slingshotted into the top 3 just in the overall rankings, and we'll have a clear path at least from the media into the college football playoff. And I don't blame them. Texas and Michigan, Texas just lost their starting running back, CJ Baxter. I don't think that's going to play too much of an impact. No disrespect, but I think they have a deep running back room. And I don't think they were going to rely solely on him too much, anyways. But, Michigan, I just think Michigan's very overrated. I have them as, at around number 11 for me at this point. But their offense is terrible. On paper, their offense sucks. And it wasn't anything special last year. They just had a generationally good defense, who also lost a lot of pieces to that as well. So I have Texas picking up this game on the road, 20-13. I think a lot's going to be made out of this game. I think it's going to be a pretty boring game, to be honest with you. But I do think Texas will get the job done on the road, improving to 2-0. Next up, we have McNeese traveling to Texas A&M. Obviously coming off their week 1 loss, they're going to play with a lot of passion in order to bounce back. I think they win this game 31-9 here, improved to 1-1. After that, we have Tennessee Tech traveling to Georgia. I mean, come on. This is Georgia improving to 2-0. I have them winning this game 42-6 here. If they give up 6, actually, that'll be pretty disappointing. After that, we have ACC, SEC, which is weird because it's Cal. Cal traveling to Auburn. Cal has a really good running back. Jaden Ott, I believe is his name. That's all they got. That's the only player I could name on their entire team. I think Auburn picks this W up, improving to 2-0. I think they win 23-16, so pretty close, I think it'll be. After that, South Carolina travels to Kentucky, the first SEC on SEC game of the season, I believe. Pretty simple. I think Kentucky is simply a level above South Carolina. Whether you want to look at the quarterback, the receivers, head coach, I think is much more stable. I just think Kentucky is farther along than South Carolina is at this point. So I have them winning this game 24-15. Kentucky 2-0, South Carolina 1-1. Next up, we have Middle Tennessee traveling to Ole Miss. This will be a slaughter. Ole Miss improves to 2-0. I have them winning this game 37-10. After that, the rematch, the much awaited rematch between South Florida and Alabama. If you are unaware, last season, for reasons unknown to anybody, Nick Saban decided to bench Jalen Milroe against South Florida. And since Alabama's backup quarterbacks are god awful, they struggled mightily against South Florida and they couldn't score any fucking points. That will not be the case this season because they have Jalen Milroe. So I have Alabama winning this game 30-6, improving to 2-0, and probably staying in my top 10 here. After that, we have Samford in Florida. This will be a very big bounce back win for Florida. one of their only winnable games on their entire schedule. They have the most brutal schedule in the country, by the way. So they will gladly take the opportunity to beat up on Sanford. I have them winning this game 35-6. After that, Buffalo at Missouri. Like I said earlier, Missouri, one of the best teams in the conference in the country. This is another layup for them. They improved to 2-0, win this game 38-10, in my opinion. After that, Nichols travels to LSU, a top 15 team for me. They improved to 2-0 as well, winning this game 42-9. After that, this is one of the more slept on games in the entire country, I think. And this actually is going to have a lot of impact for the playoff, in my opinion. These are two teams, and don't sleep on NC State. A lot of people sleep on NC State. These are two teams that could absolutely make the college football playoff. I think the winner of this game, I would almost bet money. The winner of this game makes the college football playoff. And it's only week 2. NC State has an incredibly easy schedule. I think this is the toughest game on NC State's schedule, and they get to host Tennessee. So if they could pick up this win, that is absolutely massive for them. And I actually think they're going to get the job done. I think at home, week 2, they have, they are the underdog. Certainly, they're going to be the underdog in the situation. But I think they get the job done at home. I have them ranked in my top 20 as well as Tennessee. I think they win 28-24. They improve to 2-0. Tennessee drops to 1-1. I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be a really good game. But this will be Nico's his third game ever starting compared to Grayson McCall at NC State. He's played like 4 seasons, 5 seasons already. So a mountain of difference in terms of quarterback experience there. So I like NC State in this game, and a bit of an upset there. After that, we have Alcorn State at Vanderbilt. I mean, come on. If Vanderbilt can't get this done, they might go winless. So I have them picking this game up 24-10. Following that, we have a ex Big 12 team versus a new Big 12 team. Houston versus Oklahoma at Oklahoma, I should say. Oklahoma, I think, picks this one up. They improved to 2-0. I have them winning 33-10. Finally, in week 2, we have Mississippi State traveling to Arizona State. Interesting out of conference game there. I think Mississippi State gets the job done. Arizona State is one of the worst teams in the Big 12. So I think Mississippi State improves 2-0, winning this game 24-14. Gosh. We're only 2 weeks. How long? This is going to be crazy long. Pause. Oh, pause. Anyways, moving on. That's the first page done, front and back. All right. I'm gonna look like a fucking old man by the end of this. All right, SEC Week 3. Let's get into it. You can see there's more conference games now, so the list is getting shorter. So we have Alabama, top 10 team for me, traveling to Wisconsin to play not one of the best teams in the Big Ten, but I'd say a mid-tier team, a mid-tier Big Ten team, and I think a pretty good team overall. This is a really interesting one. We don't really see SEC traveling to the Big Ten all that often, so a bit of a neat situation here. But I think Alabama will get the job done. I think they're the better team, better quarterback, better coached, and I think they're going to pick this one up 28-17 to improve to 3-0. Following that, we have LSU playing their first conference game, traveling to South Carolina. Pretty simple. They're the much better team. This is a no-brainer, to be honest with you. I don't really see a world where South Carolina picks this W up. So I have LSU beating South Carolina 33-17. LSU improves to 3-0. South Carolina drops to 1-2. Next up, we have Boston College traveling to Missouri. Pretty interesting ACC SEC matchup here, but I don't think Boston College is very good. I think they're going to struggle mightily on the road here at Missouri. I think Missouri wins this game 27-10 and improve to 3-0 themselves. So you can quickly see the teams that I think are going to start, it's going to form pretty quickly, in my opinion, the top tier teams in the SEC. After that, we have A&M at Florida. Really important game for both teams, honestly, because I could absolutely see both these teams starting off 0-1, bouncing back in week 2, and whoever wins this game is going to be, a big sigh of relief, and whoever loses is going to kind of be hitting the panic button, right? Because nobody wants to start off 1-2. But I do think A&M wins this game in very close fashion, 23-21, and Florida, they start off 1-2, and it's kind of, I'm not going to say it's over at that point, but if you know their schedule, then you know that this is one of the last winnable games for them. After that, we have Tulane, interesting team here, traveling to Oklahoma. Tulane, if this was last year, I'd say they have a bit more of a chance, but they lost Michael Pratt. They still have a good team, don't get me wrong. They're the second best team in the AAC, but I think at Oklahoma, it's just too tall of a task. I think Oklahoma wins this game 34-20, and they improve to 3-0 themselves. So they're looking pretty good at this point. Following that, UAB at Arkansas. Not a lot to talk about here. Arkansas gets the job done, I think, 27-14. They improved to 2-1. After that, Ole Miss, at this point, a top five team in the country, in my opinion, travels to Wake Forest, one of the worst teams in the ACC. They should not struggle here whatsoever. I think it's going to be a blowout, 41-10. I have Ole Miss winning this game. After that, UTSA travels to Texas. Texas, if you don't know, stole UTSA's best player, an edge rusher named Trey Moore, I believe. So I think Texas is going to use him to absolutely dismantle UTSA and improve to 3-0 and win 38-7, in my opinion. After that, poor Vanderbilt. Never mind. I thought that said Georgia. Vanderbilt travels to Georgia State, and this will be their last winnable game for a long time. They improved to 2-1. I think they beat Georgia State because they lost their best player in their running back to Missouri, by the way. So I think they beat Georgia State 20-13, and Vanderbilt improves to 2-1, better than Florida. After that, New Mexico travels to Auburn. This is Auburn's third layup of the season. I think they win this game as well as their other two. They improve to 3-0, and they win this game 24-10, in my opinion. After that, two undefeated teams. 2-0 Kentucky hosts 2-0 Georgia. Um, this is a pretty interesting one. Last season it was even more interesting because Kentucky was like 5-0 at that point when they traveled to Georgia. But I think Georgia's going to get. I think Georgia's going to get the job done this season as well as they did last season. Improve to 3-0, and I think they're going to beat Kentucky 33-20. Maybe a little closer than some people will think, but I think at home, ex Georgia quarterback. There are a couple of interesting factors here, working in Kentucky's favor. But I think they're going to drop 2-1. After that, Toledo travels to Mississippi State. Toledo lost their star quarterback and their running back, I believe, so they completely fallen off, and Quinyon Mitchell on the defensive end. So they're a shell of their former self. As they travel to Mississippi State, I think Mississippi State starts the season off 3-0. So a very, very good look for them. You got A&M with a loss, Kentucky with a loss, Florida multiple losses, and you got Mississippi State here sitting undefeated. So Tennessee as well with a loss. So Mississippi State sitting pretty after week 3. I think they win this game 28-17. After that, Kent State at Tennessee. Tennessee is going to put an absolute beating on them after losing to NC State. They improved 2-1 and they beat Kent State 45-6, in my opinion. There's going to be a massive fucking cough after every single week here, and we got about 10 to go. All right, so after 3 weeks, we got a lot of contenders forming. Florida already falling, apart. Let's see how week 4 pans out. Sorry here. Let me change this to SEC. All right, week 4 in the SEC. First off, we have Arkansas traveling to Auburn. Very interesting game here. I think Arkansas certainly could get the job done, but I'm going to give Auburn the benefit of the doubt at home. They should be a heavy favorite here. I think they win this game 24-20 and improve to 4-0, which, by the way, would be a very, very good start for Auburn. I'm sure a lot of Auburn fans would be ecstatic with a 4-0 start. Following that, we have UCLA traveling to LSU. This is interesting for LSU. They play USC and UCLA both in the first month of the season. I think they're going to dominate UCLA. Well, not dominate, but I have them winning this game 27-13. Could be much more than that, to be honest with you. But I have LSU improving to 4-0 after this game. Probably solidified now in the top 15 in the entire country. Following this, we have Vanderbilt traveling to Missouri. This will be a massacre. Missouri improves to 4-0. I think they beat Vanderbilt 34-9. After that, we have Tennessee traveling to Oklahoma. This will be Oklahoma's first SEC game ever, hosting one of the better teams in the SEC. I think it'll be a great game. I have Tennessee, two high-powered offenses, really, but I think Tennessee's defense is what's going to make a difference in this game. Oklahoma has a young quarterback. I think he'll make a few mistakes this game. Both teams have a young quarterback, but I think Tennessee's defense will be the more impactful defense on the field. I think they win this game, improve to 3-1, and beat Oklahoma 30-28. Oklahoma drops 3-1, and Tennessee now with a massive win in week 4. After that, Akron at South Carolina. South Carolina should get the job done, improve to 2-2, and beat Akron 27-12. After this, Florida at Mississippi State. This is a real interesting one because this really is like the last chance for Florida to win the game. Well, this is one of the last chances for Florida to win the game early, and one of the only SEC games that they could win. So if they lose to Mississippi State, and by the way, at home, for Mississippi State, they're undefeated by this point. So they have a lot of momentum, a lot of confidence, a lot of swagger here. Florida could absolutely lose this game. However, I think they have the better roster. I think they have a much better quarterback, and I think they get the job done, even though they are on the road. I have them winning 31-24 here. After that, you have Ohio traveling to Kentucky. Kentucky, following their loss to Georgia, I think they bounced back in a big way here, beating Ohio 31-6 and improving to 3-1. Following that, we have Bowling Green traveling to Texas A&M. By the way, Bowling Green led the country in takeaways last year. Keep an eye on that. But I think A&M improves to 3-1, winning 3 in a row after their opening week 1 loss. Beat Bowling Green, I'm gonna say 28-7 here. Following that, we have Georgia Southern here traveling to Ole Miss. I mean, Ole Miss, by the way, an absolute cakewalk of an opening schedule here. I'm not mad at that. I like Ole Miss. I want to see them do well, and they're going to dominate all these teams early on. I think they improved to 4-0. They beat Georgia Southern 38-6. Following that final game of Week 4, UL Monroe on the road at Texas. You want to take a guess how that's going to go? I have Texas winning this game, improving to 4-0, 37-9. After that, we got Week 5. So you got Texas, Ole Miss, Missouri, Georgia, and LSU undefeated. You have teams like A&M, Tennessee with a loss. You have Alabama still undefeated actually as well. So Oklahoma with a loss as well. So a lot of good teams. You got teams like Auburn undefeated, Mississippi State 3-1. So a lot of teams here still in play. Next up, Week 5. Another page is up. Starting Week 5 off, you have Arkansas traveling to Texas A&M. I think A&M is the more well-coached team, better roster, much better quarterback. I think they take this game at home. Arkansas drops to 2-3. A&M improves to 4-1, possibly now working their way back into the top 25. I think they win this game 27-17. After that, you have Auburn hosting Oklahoma. This will be a massive game, to be honest. Auburn could certainly be ranked here, after starting off 4-0. You have Oklahoma coming off their loss to Tennessee. Certainly, you do not want to lose your first 2 games in the SEC, but this will be a crazy environment at Auburn. So, oh man, I'm struggling here. I'm not even halfway through. I have Oklahoma winning this game 28-20, but this will be a very good game to watch and attend. But yeah, I have them improving to 4-1, Auburn dropping to 4-1. After that, Mississippi State travels to Texas. This is one of the easier games that Texas could host of any SEC team. So I have Texas improving to 5-0, Mississippi State dropping to 3-2. I have Texas winning 35-21. Texas defense, by the way, not that good in my opinion. At least their back end, their front seven solid, but I think Mississippi State could put some points up on them. Next up, we have Kentucky traveling to Ole Miss. I just don't think Kentucky's good enough. The only teams I think really could challenge an Ole Miss, some Missouri, Texas, Georgia, are a fellow top team. I don't think a mid-tier team like Kentucky is really putting Ole Miss in any sort of threat, but I think it'll be a close game. 20-28, I have Ole Miss pulling this one out and improving to 5-0. After that, Georgia to Alabama. One of the best games in the country. I mean, massive implications, obviously. You have the whole Kirby Smart can't beat, Alabama. That thing's still playing, but, no Nick Saban. It's a different team, different environment, different everything. So I have Georgia winning this game pretty comfortably, actually. 27-20. I don't think it'll be that much of a nail biter. I think they'll take an early lead. Maybe Alabama cuts it close in the second half, but I think Georgia pulls away and puts it in the bag. So I have Georgia improving to 4-0, Alabama dropping to 3-1. After that, we have South Alabama traveling to LSU. I think LSU gets the job done here, wins 28-13, and they improve to 5-0. Now, Week 6. I'm surviving. I'm not going to fucking break down here, hopefully. Week 6. Tennessee, top 15 team for me, travels to Arkansas. Tennessee on a roll, I think, since their loss to NC State. I think they keep that momentum going. They beat Arkansas. They improved to 4-1. I have them winning 31-20, and I think Arkansas drops to 2-4. After that, this is a really, really interesting one. UCF traveling to Florida. Now, listen, Not that. I think UCF will be undefeated by this point. And if they are, they will be 4-0. I think they will be ranked. And you have a ranked, undefeated UCF traveling to Florida to play what is certainly going to be one of their biggest games in recent program history here. You know, they have all the momentum. Florida's on a downward spiral. I think UCF gets this one done. Certainly, I could see the opposite happening. I could absolutely see Florida winning this game, but I think UCF actually has a magical season next year. I think they really shock a lot of people in the Big 12. So I think they win 37-34. I think it'll be a great game, actually. After that, you got Auburn traveling to Georgia. This has been a close game, actually. It was a close game last year, but I think Georgia gets the job done convincingly. I think they win 28-13. I think they improve to 5-0. They're probably the best team in the country at this point. And I think Auburn drops to 4-2, losing back-to-back games. After this, Ole Miss, top 5 team, travels to South Carolina. Again, South Carolina just not good enough to pose any sort of threat. I think Ole Miss wins 30-10 and improves to 6-0. After this, Alabama coming off their loss to Georgia, they are able to travel to Vanderbilt and bounce back in a very big way here. I think they win 37-10. They improve to 4-1, and Vanderbilt drops to 2-3. Following that last game of Week 6, you have Missouri traveling to Texas A&M. Very big game here. Very, very big game for both teams. A&M obviously building their way back after their Week 1 loss. Sorry. And Missouri fuck me. And Missouri trying to stay undefeated here. I think Missouri gets the job done. I think they beat A&M on the road. Close game, good game. I think they win 27-21. And I think they improve to 5-0, and A&M drops to 4-2. I'm absolutely dying here. Next up, Week 7, about the halfway point here, so I'm not, I got to hang in a little longer. Let me scroll down here and get the right fucking conference pulled up here. Week 7 starts off with Mississippi State traveling to Georgia here. This is not going to be very close at all. I think Mississippi State drops their third in a row to fall 3-3. Georgia improves to 6-0 with a 35-13 win. After that, Vanderbilt at Kentucky. They beat Kentucky a couple years ago, but I do not think that will be the case this year. I think Kentucky wins 27-10. They improve to 4-2. Vanderbilt drops to 2-4. Following that, you have a very, very big top 15 matchup here. Undefeated Ole Miss, undefeated Ole Miss and undefeated LSU. This will be a massive game. Probably going to be game of the week, or at least, probably a night game, because I think Texas and Oklahoma is going to be at noon, right, if I'm not mistaken here. So in terms of a night game, this certainly could be the most talked about game of the week. So I think, with that being said, it was an amazing game last year, though. It was like 1,000 yards of offense last season between these two teams. So I think Ole Miss gets the job done in more convincing fashion than last year. I think they won 37-28. I don't think Ole Miss can keep up defensively. Man. So I think LSU drops to 5-1. Ole Miss improves to 7-0. After this, Missouri goes on the road to fucking UMass of all places. Easy fucking win. They win 45-9. They improve to 6-0, remain undefeated. After this, Florida at Tennessee. Now, I know Florida upset Tennessee last year in the swamp. This is a completely different situation. In my opinion, I think Tennessee here wins a little more convincingly. They win 27-21, in my opinion. Again, a close game. A lot of these Florida losses, A&M, Tennessee, I think these are going to be UCF, Miami. These are going to be close losses. But I think Tennessee is going to get the job done at home with a much, much better roster. So they improved to 5-1. Florida drops to 2-4. After this, South Carolina at Alabama. I don't even have to break this one down. South Carolina drops to 2-4. Alabama improves to 5-1 with a 28-9 win. After that, you have Texas at Oklahoma, the Red River rivalry, one of the biggest games always every season in college football. This will be a top 20 matchup in my opinion. Oklahoma, obviously, with their loss to Tennessee already. Texas still undefeated. I think Texas gets the job done. I know Oklahoma won last season, but they lost Dillon Gabriel. Texas still has their star quarterback. Don't get me wrong. Texas lost a lot of pieces offensively, but I just don't think Oklahoma. If you look at the last season's game. What the fuck was that? I don't know what the fuck that was. If you look at Oklahoma last season, Dylan Gabriel shouldered Oklahoma and a lot of that game. Without him this game, I think Texas gets the job done here. I think they win 27-24. They improve to 6-0. Oklahoma drops to 4-2, and Oklahoma's downfall starts to happen around this time now. Week 8 as we proceed. Please, before I fucking cough up a lung. All right, so next up here. Start off week 8. LSU at Arkansas. Arkansas not very good. LSU is pretty good. Top 20 team in my opinion. At this point, they improved to 6-1. Arkansas drops 2-5. I think they win this game 24-20. It was a pretty close game last year. I think the same could be said this time as well. Arkansas at home. Next up, we have Kentucky at Florida. I think Florida actually gets this one done. So I'm giving Florida the benefit of the doubt here. I have them losing to teams like UCF and Miami, but I have them beating teams like Kentucky and Mississippi State, which they could very well lose to. So I think Kentucky drops to 4-3. Florida improves to 3-4. I think Florida wins this game 28-27. After this, A&M travels to Mississippi State. I think A&M gets the job done on the road. Mississippi State loses their 4th in a row. They drop to 3-4. A&M improves to 5-2, and they win 31-17. After this, Auburn on the road at Missouri. They started off 4-0. I think they dropped this one to lose their 3rd straight, drop to 4-3. Missouri gets the big win at home, improves to 7-0, still undefeated, and certainly a top 5 team in the country at this point. I think they win 28-17. After this, you got South Carolina on the road at Oklahoma. I definitely think Oklahoma bounces back after their Red River loss. They have to win this one at home against South Carolina. I think South Carolina drops to 2-5. Oklahoma improves to 5-2, and I think they win this game 35-13. After that, Alabama at Tennessee. Massive game, obviously. I mean, you have everything on the line. When the fuck my headset died, I hope the audio is okay. Anyways, uh, Alabama at Tennessee. Obviously, this was a magical game when it took place 2 years ago. I think the same is going to take place. Honestly, I think it's going to be a very close game. Both teams pretty evenly matched. I have both of these teams in the top 15 at this point, but I actually think Tennessee's going to. I actually think Tennessee's going to get the job done at home over Alabama to kind of mark in a new era. You know, Alabama is not the dominant team that they once were. I think they've dropped to 5-2. Tennessee improves to 6-1. I think Tennessee gets the job done and they win 24-20. After this, Georgia at Texas. Man, what a week this is, really. Georgia at Texas. This will be a top 3 matchup, almost certainly, in my opinion. Both teams undefeated at 6-0 coming into this. But I think Georgia wins. I think Georgia wins on the road, an incredibly tough environment, one of the most crazy environments we're going to see all season. I think they win 30-27. I don't think Texas's defense is going to be able to slow Georgia down. Whereas Georgia is going to be the much more physical team here. I don't think Texas is going to be able to run the ball very well. I think Ewers will turn the ball over, certainly, maybe multiple times. So I think Georgia gets the job done, and they remain and they solidify themselves as the best team in the country. After this, fucking Ball State and Vanderbilt here. I think Vanderbilt wins 20-14, two absolutely irrelevant teams. Vanderbilt improves to 3-4. And by the way, I think Texas drops to 6-1 following their loss. Week 9. God damn, man. Should have got some fucking cough syrup before. I didn't even feel sick before this. This has taken years off my life here. That's what you get when you don't record for 3 weeks. All right. Week 9. Got the page down. It's this. We're getting towards the end here. Week 9 starts off Missouri at Alabama. This is a massive game, man. You know, typically I would pick a team like Alabama here, coming off a loss at home, right? A lot to play for here. But I just think it's going to be a magical season for Missouri, man. I really do. I think they are going to, the stars are going to align. And I think Missouri is going to go undefeated, to be honest with you. So I think Missouri gets the win on the road versus Alabama. Missouri improves to 8-0. Alabama drops to 5-3. Just an unthinkable record for Alabama. I think Missouri wins this game 31-24. After that, you got Auburn at Kentucky, two mid-tier teams, trying to vie for a winning record here. I think Kentucky gets the job done at home, 27-20. They improve to 5-3. Auburn drops to 4-4, losing their fourth in a row. After this, Oklahoma on the road at Ole Miss. it's just a tough game, man. It's just a really tough game to win on the road. Ole Miss, all the momentum at home here. I think they get the job done. 31-27 here, I think. They win. They improve to 8-0. Oklahoma drops to 5-3. After that, you got Mississippi State hosting Arkansas. Two not good teams, but I think Mississippi State with, at being at home, I think they take the win here. They improve to 4-4 in their losing streak. Arkansas drops to 2-6. I have Mississippi State winning 20-17. After that, LSU hosts Texas A&M. Pretty good game here, actually. Two top 25 teams, both with a loss already coming into the game. I think A&M gets the job done. I don't know why I've gone back and forth on this, but I just think A&M is slightly better at this point in the season. I trust their defense certainly a lot more than LSU. LSU traveling here, it's a close game. A&M winning 31-30, but I just think they get the job done at home. LSU drops 6-2, A&M improves to 6-2. After this, Texas at Vanderbilt. What do you think is going to happen here? I have Texas winning 41-6. They improve 7-1. Vanderbilt drops to 3-5. Next up, man. I'm dying. All right, week 10 here. Starting to hit the final stretch here. Ole Miss is going to beat Arkansas on the road. I think they win 41-10. Let me pull up SEC here. I'm actually, this is making me sick here. Too much knowledge and amazing predictions is making me physically ill. Ole Miss improves to 9-0. I think they beat Arkansas on the road. Arkansas drops to 2-7. Ole Miss wins 41-10. After that, you have Vanderbilt at Auburn. Another completely irrelevant matchup here. But I think Auburn gets the job done at home. They are much better than Vanderbilt. They should be Vanderbilt. They win 27-13. Vanderbilt drops to 3-6. Auburn improves to 5-4. After this, A&M at South Carolina. Very favorable matchup for them coming off the LSU game. They get to kind of take a step back, if you will. They don't have to, put their foot on the gas necessarily. I think they win this game, improve to 7-2. I think they beat South Carolina 31-17. I think South Carolina drops to 2-6 here. After that, you got Kentucky at Tennessee here. It's been a pretty close game between these two teams recently, actually. But I think Tennessee gets the job done certainly at home. They improve to 7-1. I think Kentucky drops to 5-4. I think Tennessee wins this game here 28-20. After that, fucking Maine travels to Oklahoma. Oklahoma has to get the job done here. I think they win 45-6. They improve to 6-3. After that, Florida and Georgia play neutral site, obviously. Georgia just has to win this game. They're just miles ahead of Florida right now. They win 30-13, in my opinion. They improve to 8-0, still the number one team in the country. And I think Florida drops to 3-5. Then you got fucking UMass at Mississippi State. Mississippi State has to win this game 34-9, in my opinion. They improve to 5-4. You can see things really taking form here. Now it's just, who can stay healthy at this point, who can make it the SEC championship and the college football playoff with only a few big matchups left. And we got a few of them here this week. So we got week 11 here. Oh, man. Alabama and LSU, both top 25 teams, both with multiple losses already at this point. It's been a very, very close game the last few years. Both teams taking wins here. LSU at home, it was very close. But I think Alabama is going to get it done. I trust their defense so much more. LSU with an unproven quarterback. I know what Jalen Milroe does. I think they win this game 28-27, even though LSU is hosting. After this, Georgia at Ole Miss. Honestly, I think this game is going to be even better than Georgia Texas. I think this will be a top 3 matchup at this point. Both teams undefeated 8-0. Well, Ole Miss 9-0 actually. But man, I think Georgia wins, man. Georgia has not lost a regular season game in 3 years. I'm not going to predict them to lose one. They have to show me that they can lose in the regular season. So I think Georgia wins this game. They improve to 9-0. Ole Miss drops 9-1. I think Georgia wins 37-31, an absolute shootout, possible game of the year contender right here. After that, Oklahoma travels to Missouri. Missouri undefeated, obviously, by this point. I think Oklahoma, it's such a tough game, man. They travel fucking to Oklahoma, or sorry, to Ole Miss, to Missouri. You play, Texas, obviously. You play Tennessee. It's just such a tough schedule for Oklahoma. I think they dropped to 6-4. I think Missouri improves to 9-0. I think Missouri wins 31-24 here. After that, Tennessee hosts Mississippi State. Tennessee, much better team with a lot more momentum. They're a top 12 team in the country at this point, in my opinion. They improved to 8-1. Mississippi State drops to 5-5. I think Tennessee wins this game 27-10. Following that, South Carolina and Vandy, two bottom tier relevant teams. I think South Carolina wins this game, even though they're on the road. Vanderbilt just not good enough to beat other SEC teams yet. I think South Carolina wins 27-10. They improved to 3-6. Vanderbilt drops to 3-7. I think Mississippi State is 5-5 after their game, and Tennessee improves to 8-1. Texas hosts Florida here. I think this will be a pretty interesting game, actually. Even though Florida is pretty much out of it at this point, they even could have fired Billy Napier by this point. I think Texas will have a little bit of a scare here. I think they win 34-24. They improve to 8-1. Florida drops to 3-6. Week 12 in the SEC here. Only 2 or 3 games left now for every team. How long is this? It's been at least 45 minutes, I think. This will be over an hour, almost certain. Week 12 in the SEC here. Starting off with LSU at Florida. This will be, like I said, man, I think Florida's going to have a lot of close losses, a lot of exciting games. They have a pretty good offense, to be honest with you. I think LSU gets the job done at the road following their loss versus Alabama. I think they bounce back quickly. I think they improve to 7-3. Florida drops to 3-7. I think LSU wins 34-30. Next up, massive game. Tennessee on the road at Georgia. By the way, I think Tennessee is going to be like a top 10 team in the country when they travel to Georgia. But I just don't think they're there yet, especially now with the first year quarterback. If this was even, I was about to say if this was Hendon Hooker, but even when they had Hendon Hooker, that still was not even good enough. So I think Georgia takes this one 28-24, close game, good game, but I think Georgia improves to 10-0. Tennessee drops to 8-2. Next up, I think Missouri is going to go on the road and beat the fuck out of South Carolina 38-20. They improve to 10-0 as well. South Carolina drops to 3-7. Next up, Texas on the road, Arkansas. They win. They improve to 9-1. Arkansas drops 2-8, and I think Texas wins 34-13. But then Auburn hosts fucking UL Monroe for some reason. They improve to 6-4. I think they win 31-9. Kentucky hosts. We got a bunch of just random teams here traveling to SEC for free wins. Kentucky hosts Murray State. They win 35-7. They improve to 6-4. Alabama wins their fucking nonsense game. They improve to 42. They improve to 7-3. I think they win 42-6. And I have Texas A&M beating New Mexico State shockingly 31-10. I think they improve to 8-2. Now that that's out of the way, last fucking page here. Last page. Let's get into it. God, man. This was almost the death of me here. All right. Week 13 here. SEC play. Louisiana Tech at Arkansas. Arkansas, I think, wins this game 24-13. They improve to 3-8. A&M on the road at Auburn. This could be a trip-up game, certainly. Certainly could be a game that, catches A&M off guard, but I think they get the job done here, to be honest with you. I think they beat Auburn close, 24-20. I think they improve to 9-2. Meanwhile, Auburn drops to 6-5. After this, LSU hosts Vanderbilt. They have to beat Vanderbilt. No other option here. I think they win 28-13. They improve to 8-3. On the flip side, Vanderbilt drops to 3-8. After that, we have Mississippi State hosting Missouri. This has to be a win for Missouri. I don't see any world where Mississippi State upsets them here. But I think Missouri wins 37-16. I think they improve to 11-0 by this point, and Mississippi State drops to 5-6. After this, Alabama Oklahoma should be a great game, honestly. A really good game here. Oklahoma hosts Alabama. And don't get me wrong. I think I could certainly see a world where they win, but by this point, I think the book is out that they're just not good enough in year one to compete with these SEC teams. and I think Alabama gets the job. And I think they improve to 8-3, and Oklahoma drops to 6-5. I think Alabama wins 28-24 here. And on the flip side, I think Texas beats Kentucky at home. I think they beat Kentucky 28-24 as well. I think Texas improves to 10-1 at this point, and Kentucky drops to 6-5. Next up, Ole Miss at Florida. You know, I don't think this will be a close game. I think Florida will absolutely just be completely defeated by this point. I think Ole Miss wins 34-21. They improve to 10-1, still a top 5 team in the country by this point, and Florida drops to 3-8. Georgia hosts UMass. They win 45-3, in my opinion. They improve to 11-0. Tennessee hosts UTEP, 37-6, I think, right there, and they improve to 9-2. And then South Carolina should improve to 4-7 after beating Walford. I think they win that game 34-10. Now, rivalry week. A lot of interesting games here in Week 14 in the SEC. A lot of teams here vying for the championship bid, conference championship, that is. And let's see who gets it done here. SEC Week 14. Before I fucking die. All right. The Egg Bowl, Mississippi State at Ole Miss. I think Mississippi State will be completely finished by this point. Meanwhile, Ole Miss has all the momentum in the world. I think they win this game 34-17. Ole Miss finishing the regular season 11-1 in my top 5. And Mississippi State finishing the season 5-7. You know, not too bad for a first-year head coach. I think they won 5-7 last season. So, you know, a solid starting point for a first-year head coach here. After that, Georgia hosts Georgia Tech. They have to win this game. I think they win 27-13 here. They improve to 12-0, heading into the college football playoff and the SEC championship as the number 1 team in the country, in my opinion. Then you have the Iron Bowl, Alabama and Auburn. I think Alabama takes this one, to be honest with you. I know it was an extremely close game last year, coming down to some late game heroics by Jalen Milroe and Isaiah Bond. But I think Alabama wins this game. They improve to 9-3. They win 27-17. You know, 9-3. Really, that's what I expected going into the season. Is 9-3 for Alabama. I don't see the talent. I don't see the talent on the roster that we come to expect from Alabama. And it's too big of a problem to overcome. They don't have Nick Saban anymore. I can't just say, well, they're not as good as I think they should be on paper, but they have Nick Saban. I can't say that anymore. So I think they're going to finish the season 9-3. Still a top 20 team, certainly, but certainly nowhere near the college football playoff. I think Auburn finishes the season 6-6, which it kind of just is what it is. Until they get a quarterback that's around their ceiling in the SEC, right? They're not going to win any, 8-9 games with Peyton Thorne. So they got to get somebody else in there. Next up, we got Florida traveling to FSU. Don't get me wrong. I think FSU is overrated. I don't think they're going to do that well next year with DJ at quarterback, but their whole roster just got decimated here. But I think they're going to beat Florida. I think Florida, like I said, just going to be completely defeated by this point. I think they dropped to 3-9. Billy Napier is obviously fired. I think Florida State wins 28-21 this game. Next up, we got Kentucky hosting Louisville. I actually think Louisville's going to do very well. I think they win 10 games next year. I think they beat Kentucky on the road actually here. I think Kentucky drops to 6-6. I think Louisville wins 30-24 here. And Kentucky, I don't think they fire their coach. It's just, the 1 year rent to quarterback thing is not working. It's not working for them. It's, a couple years in a row now where they're just, not getting any better here. So I don't know what the answer is, but 6-6, a pretty below average year there, I think, at Kentucky. After that, Oklahoma at LSU. What a game this is going to be. Final week of the season, they travel. Should be an offensive shootout here. But, man, I just think LSU at home, I think LSU gets the job done, man. I think they're the better roster. I think they're the better coach, better quarterback. Maybe. I think Jackson Dart certainly, has shown flash, I guess, against Arizona in the bowl game. But I just trust LSU so much more at home, man. So I think they win this game 34-31. They improve to 9-3. Pretty good season for LSU, bouncing back from the Jaden Daniels year. I think you take 9-3, obviously. If you're an LSU fan, I think 9-3 you should be happy with. And Oklahoma 6-6. Listen, it's going to be very disappointing. A lot of people are going to be mad with 6-6. But if you look at their schedule, man, there's just not much more they can do. Their ceiling is like 7 wins, man. They just play too many tough teams, man. Too many tough teams on the road. Like, it's just too difficult. It's just too difficult for Oklahoma. After that, Missouri hosts Arkansas. They got to get this win here. I think they win 37-10. They finished their season 12-0. Just a magical season. A magical season for Missouri, but they have the talent, man. Offensively, they're loaded. absolutely loaded offensively. They have the easiest schedule, arguably, in the entire SEC. They don't play any of the other top four. Their toughest game is on the road at Bama. I think they win that game. They avoid LSU and Tennessee, I think. So they only play like one of the top 7 teams in the conference. And yeah, I think they get the job done. They improve to 12-0. I think Arkansas falls flat on their face. They finish the season 3-9. They probably fire their coach as well, and they just start over there. South Carolina, I think, loses on the road at Clemson. I know they beat them a couple years ago. I don't think Clemson's very good, but I don't think South Carolina is even on their level. So I think South Carolina loses 13-20 to Clemson. I think they drop to 4-8, and I don't know. This is the thing, right? You go 4-8, you almost have to fire somebody, but it's like, man, without Spencer Rattler, just one of the worst rosters in the conference. It's like, what do you do, man? What do you do if you're South Carolina? Do you fire your coach after 4? I don't think I would, to be honest. I think I'd give him another year to figure something out, but certainly not a good year there at South Carolina. After that, one of the biggest, certainly going to be one of the biggest games of the season next year. Texas. Before I even talk, let's get fucking Tennessee and Vanderbilt out the way. Tennessee goes on the road, dominates Vanderbilt. I think they win 37-10. Tennessee improves to 10-2, and honestly, 10-2 Tennessee, they probably make the college football playoff. To be honest with you, they got a couple big wins over teams like Alabama, Oklahoma. I think Tennessee 10-2, they should be very, very happy with that. Very happy with 10-2. Vanderbilt 3-9. It is what it is. They got to fire their coach as well. So yeah. Now that that's over, Texas at A&M, a top 20 matchup. Texas is number 6, or would hypothetically be number 6 for me at this point. A&M would be number 18. Great game, but I think Texas gets the job done on the road, 30-24. Great game. Could potentially be in the candidate for game of the year. All the history that this game has, the importance that it has to both the programs. So, but I do think Texas gets the job done. They improve to 11-1. They certainly make the college football playoff. And A&M, in Mike Elko's first year at A&M, 9-3. I think you take that all day long. That's a great building block to start from and kind of to move forward with if you're Texas A&M. With all that being said here, I just, now I think obviously you have undefeated Missouri, undefeated Georgia in my scenario here. I think they play in the SEC championship game. I think Georgia gets the job done. I think Missouri, they beat Missouri the last 2 years in a row. I think they'll do it again for the 3rd year in a row. So I think I have Georgia going 13-0 undefeated, Missouri 12-1, Ole Miss and Texas at 10-1 or 11-1. Sorry, let me do this actually. 1 second. Let me stop the screen share so I can pull something up for you. Dying, man. Certainly, it's got to be over an hour now, but I'm not going to finish until I show you this right here that I prepared for you that I forgot to pull up earlier. All right, so let me pull it up here. We have where I expected teams to finish compared to where they actually finished here. Let me share the screen again for you. All right, so this is where I thought things stood a couple months ago. And this is where I have things after my predictions, post SEC championship. I think it's pretty spot on. I think I underrated Tennessee, certainly underrated Tennessee a little bit a couple months ago. Overrated Alabama a little bit, overrated Oklahoma a little bit, underrated Mississippi State, I guess, a little bit. Definitely underrated A&M. Did not expect A&M to have the better conference record than Alabama or LSU. But yeah, man. I think this is pretty much how I see it playing out. I think the top 4 is going to be the top 4. I think you got 5 SEC teams making the college football playoff. Yeah, man. Great conference. A lot of good teams, man. I think A&M, Alabama, LSU, all great teams, just slightly not as good as the top of the conference. And yeah, man. That is how I see it playing out. Please leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, comment what you want to see next, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.